Hey gorgeous souls, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me for another one of my videos today. I get asked this question so often of how do I work with oracle cards, Emma? How can they tie into my manifesting journey? And what are oracle cards for? And although I have two decks myself, I review decks here on this channel, I have loved oracle and tarot decks for many years. I realized I've never done a video on this. I've never shared how the power of oracle cards can assist us with our manifestations and how we can get into working with oracle cards as well. So that's exactly what I want to share with you today. But if you're new here to my channel, then welcome. My name is Emma. I'm an award-winning life coach, 3 times best-selling author, law of attraction YouTuber, and I'm the host of the #1 spirituality podcast on iTunes, Spiritual Queen's Badass Podcast. And here on my channel, I cover all things law of attraction, manifestation, spirituality, and self-help. So not only do I really hope you're going to enjoy this video, but the abundance of videos here on my channel over the last 10 years. So, oracle cards. I've got 2 decks myself. My most recent one, Manifesting Rituals, that came out in August, and I have my Spiritual Queens, Spiritual Queen's Badass oracle cards, then they're not called that, Spiritual Queen oracle cards that came out in 2019. And I absolutely love working with oracle cards, and they have been so great for me in my spiritual development and deepening my manifestation practice as well. So what are oracle cards? They are a form of divination. So divination, is things like tarot cards, oracle cards, pendulums. They're like basically, predicting things or giving us insight and messages from source, from the universe, from the divine. Psychic readings and things like that. Tea leaf readings, all of these things, all the different ways we can predict things all come under this kind of umbrella of divination. And oracle cards specifically are different to tarot cards. So tarot cards have certain specific suits, meanings, and cards. So they're always like, the Page of Pentacles. They obviously follow a very structured, rigid kind of structure of tarot cards, whereas oracle cards are more free to be explored in whatever way. So you tend to kind of have like 44, 55, 66, 68 cards in an oracle card deck. They do definitely vary, and the meanings in those oracle cards will completely vary deck to deck, whereas tarot will be the same messages and the same suits and clubs and pentacles and things like that. In oracle cards, they will obviously have very different meanings deck to deck, because the author can be way more sort of fluid and, choose different meanings and choose the theme of the deck. So yeah, tarot cards, I love working with tarot cards. They can feel definitely more potent, the messages sometimes. Like I feel that tarot cards can be a little bit brutal sometimes. So I feel like oracle cards are a great introductory into divination. They're a great introductory tool, and they just really share some great loving messages with you to guide you along your journey and inspire you. So how we can use oracle cards for our manifestation practice then. So what is the point of using them? What can they help us with, and why should we use them with our manifestation practice? So oracle cards can give us beautiful and loving messages from our angels, our spirit team, obviously the universe, source, God, whatever you choose to connect with or, call. So basically we can just connect with loving insights and messages. So for me, the way that I use oracle cards is maybe when I'm seeking some guidance, or maybe when I want to have an answer to a certain question, or maybe direction, basically when I'm looking for some clarity. So a lot of people may use oracle cards every single day as like an inspiration for the day or a guidance, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think definitely my relationship with oracle cards has grown and changed and developed over the years, where I used to definitely always pull a card a day and put it on my altar, and whether it was like an affirmation card like my deck or just a random meaning card, it would be nice to just pull a card for the day and have some inspirational guidance. So I used to keep that question very open of what do I need to know today, universe? And it would just used to be an inquiry question like that. And then I would receive an affirmation or a card, depending on what deck I was working with. And that would just kind of inspire my day. And then obviously there's times where maybe I'm feeling a little bit like I need some guidance, or I need a loving message, or I need some hope maybe. So then, you know, in situations where I'm kind of looking for that, then I would do a more dedicated card spread, or I would, you know, like ask more specific questions. So there's no right or wrong way to work with oracle cards. Obviously it's what works for you and what feels good. But I would say one of the downsides to oracle cards is that we can become very reliant on them. And oracle cards are a great divination tool that can really support us along our journey and give us beautiful insights and messages that can, you know, help, inspire and guide us. But they can also become a tool where we rely on them. And oracle cards or any divination tool should never be used as a form of validation. It should never be used as a tool to basically help you believe that something's going to happen, because you will be disappointed every single time. Oracle cards, no matter how often you pull them, are never going to give you the validation that you're seeking from them. You must believe within yourself that you can manifest your desires, that is going to happen, because otherwise you'll just become really reliant on divination tools, especially oracle cards, for validation, for kind of reassurance, and it's never ever going to bring you that. You must give that to yourself first, and the oracle card should just be kind of seen as more of an extension of that already belief and validation that you have within yourself. So I think a lot of people tend to turn to divination and oracle cards for that validation, but actually I found that that's actually where we can start to use oracle cards in a way that probably doesn't feel too good and becomes very reliant, and we kind of become codependent on the cards and on divination for that, when actually we should always turn to within ourselves, connect to our intuition, and build that level of solid trust within ourselves so that it's unshakable. And that, you know, even if you receive a card that maybe you don't like in the oracle card deck, you know, you're still solid within your belief and trust within yourself. It's not shaking you in that way where you start to panic or fear based upon a card that you pull, for example, because it will happen where you maybe pull a card that you don't like. Or I've had it at events where we hand out oracle cards to the people, you know, in the audience, and very famously a lady said to V, one of my lovely friends who helped me out last time, can I pull another one? And he said, well, actually I'm going to challenge you to look up why you don't want that message, instead of just allowing you to pull another card. Like, you selected that card, that is the card for you, so sit with why it feels uncomfortable to receive that card. And I love you for doing that, because I absolutely, you know, would say the same. And you know, that it's very easy for us to just pick another card and no, I don't like that one, I'm going to pick another card. So it is really important that we do listen to the messages that do come through and how the oracle cards work, because I'm sure a lot of you may think, well, how does it work, Emma? It works through the law of attraction. So the energy and vibration that we're putting out around that question, around that situation, is the cards that we will attract. So that's why you can find that actually the card may change. You know, especially in tarot, if you're doing like a yes or no question, tarot seems to be definitely more solid, I would say. But that's why, you know, if you're using oracle cards, for example, you may ask a question on one day and receive a certain kind of type of answer, and then you might ask it on another day and receive a different type of answer that might feel clearer. That is all based upon your vibration and your energy. So yes, the cards can definitely change, and that's why I say you should never use them as like a definitive, like, this is my decision making card and basing everything on this card. You must always ask yourself whether that card resonates with you. I actually very often receive confusing cards from the universe, because I know the universe has said to, like, is challenging me to go within and ask myself what I think the answer is. So I know that the universe sends me conflicting information so that I actually stop and question it, instead of just blindly being like, I'm trusting this card, I'm basing all my life decisions off cards. It's an inquiry for me to be like, does that actually feel in alignment? Does that feel true to me? What feels true to me in my soul? So I think we can definitely also be tested by the cards sometimes to really listen to our intuition and listen to what feels in alignment with us. Now, I know that's some quite heavy information around oracle cards. They are absolutely fun as well. Wherever I go, my friends, when we have sleepovers, and obviously like whenever we meet up, they're like, pull us an oracle card. So they definitely can have a fun kind of social side to oracle cards as well. But how can you use them then? I'm going to show you using my manifesting rituals deck. because that is the first deck I picked up, and it gives you a great example of the different types of oracle cards that can exist. So normally they come in a box just like this. They can obviously come in all different shapes and sizes and beautiful designs, and you tend to have a little kind of guidebook with them as well. Now, for instance, in this deck, obviously the guidebook gives you a deeper meaning of the card. It gives you a channeled message, which a lot of the time oracle card decks will do. This is a very, very practical oracle card deck because you then get journaling prompts, a ritual and a crystal. This is very, very uncommon for oracle card decks, but the ever practical Virgo here wanted to make it super accessible and super practical and a bit more rituals so you can embody the energy of the affirmation on the cards. So oracle cards can be affirmation cards. Obviously this deck is an affirmation card, but it's also an oracle deck. But most oracle cards tend to have pictures and words and messages. So for instance, my first deck would have like a power card, abundance card, and it would have beautiful imagery on, and there would be a channeled message behind that card that you've pulled. So as you can see, oracle cards can look vastly different, be based on all kinds of spiritual themes and concepts, and that's the beauty of them. That's why they are so addictive to collect, because there are many great designs and pretty cards out there. So I do always say a word of warning, you probably will start collecting them because they are so, you know, they're so fun to work with, but so like aesthetically great to work with as well. Another thing that I forgot to mention, which is probably why this video looks out of shot, is how you pick your oracle cards. So you can just shuffle the cards until they fly out, until you feel intuitively called to pick a card. So really trust your intuition with this. The cards do tend to fly out, that is your card. Or even if you feel called to stop and just draw that card, that is also your card. So there's no set rule of how to pick them, but really trust your intuition with this. You can also get oracle books as well. So you can get oracle decks, but you can also get oracle books as well. So Manifesting Rituals was actually turned into an oracle book. So of course you don't have the physical cards in there, but you still have pretty much everything else. How to use the book, how to attune the book, and basically some guidance on how to use it daily. So the oracle books can come in all shapes and different sizes, but what I love to do, and I tend to use an oracle book in the morning more so now, is I will again just tap the energy, ask a question of what do I need to know today, universe, and then just turn to a page, and that's my card. I'm present, grounded, and at peace. And you'll have the little picture in there as well, 9 times out of 10. So whether it's a book or a deck you enjoy working with, there's so many different ways to work with divination and work with the oracle books or decks. So in your little guidebook that you get, of course, everybody's will look different, but for mine, you obviously have content, you have an introduction, you have an introduction to law of attraction in there, you have a why I created this deck, how to use the manifestation deck. So you will normally stereotypically have a little guide on how to work with the particular deck that you purchase in your little guidebook. A word of warning as well with decks. If you are purchasing them off websites that are not Amazon or a reputable bookstore and there's no guidebook with them, but there's a QR code on the back, it is a fake deck. Be really, really careful of this, because the amount of time that people post in my Law of Attraction group that they've got Gabby Bernstein's deck for half price, and I'm like, there's a reason why it's half price, and it's teeny tiny size. It's not the proper box. It's like a little playing card box, and there's a QR code on the back. They are fake decks. The author has not created them. The energy will not be the same as obviously the original deck with the author's energy in. And obviously it's really, really harmful to authors because they get nothing for it. So all that hard work, they get absolutely nothing for. So I always really do encourage you to shop from reputable bookstores, Amazon, you know, the normal places that decks and books are sold, so that the author is, one, supported, but also to make sure that you get a genuine deck with a booklet, with the right information, and you've got high quality cards as well. A lot of the cards look fuzzy, they're small, they're like not good quality, and obviously the author would probably hate for you to work with a deck that is not to the quality that they obviously wanted to put out into the world. So definitely do be mindful of that when you are purchasing decks, but you should be able to spot very easily whether it's a fake deck or a real deck, based upon the price, based upon where you're buying it from, and based upon whether it has all the things that it says it does in the box and booklet. In the booklet, you'll also have some suggested card spreads. I do anyway, and I'm pretty sure like 90% of the Oracle card decks I own absolutely have this in their workbooks as well, in their little guidebooks, sorry. So you can also have suggested card spreads of like, I've got an abundance spread, I've got a manifestation spread, and then it's just a quick kind of explanation on how to use the booklet as well. Then you'll find you have your cards section of the booklet, where again you'll have a varying different of information, whether it's a channeled message. Some Oracle card decks may also do inverted, inverted and upverted, I can't remember what they call it, but basically if you pull a card the right way or the wrong way. So if you pull a card the right way up, where you read it obviously from top to bottom, then that's one way, but if you have it upside down, then that can mean another meaning. I think that's kind of like Oracle Card Pro at that point, because a lot of the time I hear a lot of divination teachers say, you know, actually a lot of the time they kind of disregard the upside down meanings, and actually just go by the kind of upright meaning. But every deck will call it something different, so just be mindful of that. Because when I reviewed Radley Valentine and Dougal Fraser's new deck here on my channel a few weeks ago, I was like, what's inverted? What does this mean? And I realized it meant upside down. So yes, some Oracle card decks will have that. It's mainly used in tarot, but again, that deck is a great example of how some decks do incorporate that in Oracle cards too. Another thing that I actually included in my deck that I have definitely seen in quite a few Oracle card decks as well is an activation or an attunement to the deck when you first buy it. Obviously during production, people touch the cards, they get put into boxes, they're probably touched by quite a lot of people when you think about it. So you want the energy of your deck to be attuned to your energy, to be attuned to you, so you get aligned and, you know, accurate answers to your questions. So for me, I've written a whole ritual in that booklet, but for any decks that maybe don't come with their own ritual and you would like to do one, I just like to hold it towards my heart space, and I obviously tap the energy out of the deck with my dominant hand. I'm right-handed, so I will tap the energy and knock it out of the deck. I will hold it to my heart space, and I'll just set an intention with the deck to, you know, provide me with accurate and insightful answers for the highest good of all. You know, I want to connect to my spirit team and my angels through this deck and the universe, and to just allow this deck to inspire and guide me for the highest good. Something like that. Obviously in my book there's a full kind of like proper ritual for that, but that's just a really quick thing that you could do with the deck. Once you've done that, you can then use the deck to your heart's desires, whether it's pulling a daily inspiration card and putting it on your spiritual altar and just reading that affirmation out if it's an affirmation deck, or working with the meaning of whatever Oracle card deck you're working with. You could just pull a card a day, simple as that. Or if you don't want to do that, and maybe it's more of a special occasion, you want to connect with your deck, then like I said, you can ask more sort of focused questions on a situation or something that you would like to know. So again, tap the energy out of your deck each and every time you use it. Just good energy hygiene. It's something that I love to do, especially if you're using other people's decks as well. I don't tend to let loads of people use like a personal deck that I work with, just because of the energies from everyone touching it. I know that sounds bizarre, but again, if you're like, you know, having like 20 different people touch a card deck and then you're working with it, you can imagine the amount of energy that's in there. So I would keep your deck quite personal to you. Obviously if one or two people use it, that's definitely not the end of the world. Me and my friends definitely, you know, when we're like together, we'll read each other's decks and stuff. So it is okay for people to touch your decks, definitely, but just be mindful of knocking that energy out afterwards, so it's attuned to your energy and your reading, not the last person that touched it. Now, secondhand decks. It's really difficult because obviously in a world where we don't want to create more disposable products, and we obviously want to reuse, recycle, and, you know, like make use of secondhand items so they don't just, you know, end up in a landfill. Oracle card decks, I feel really funny about having somebody else's, especially if it's like from a charity shop or something where I haven't known the person who's had it before. I think energy is always the best kind of reader with this. So if you pick up a deck in a charity shop or a bookstore and it's secondhand and you actually feel really good energy from it, trust that. If you pick up a deck and it feels quite heavy, feels quite dense, and you're not sure, I would trust that. I don't think there's anything wrong with you know, taking someone's deck on. You can just obviously get some sage or Palo Santo or an ethical cleansing tool, like aura spray, for example, and cleanse the energy of the deck, you could do a whole cleansing ritual with it, and I'm sure it would be absolutely fine. But I think you trust your intuition on whether you should work with that deck, because I know when I've worked with a deck for years, especially, like, oh my gosh, even my friends, when they pick it up, they're like, wow, like your energy is in this deck. And, you know, especially I've had to dispose of some decks sometimes when like I've gone through really difficult times in my life, and I just know that it's so heavy and dense, the energy, that I know it's time to let that deck go. And I wouldn't want to put that on anybody else in terms of like the energy side of things. So you'll know within yourself what feels right, what's the right thing to do. But definitely, I think if you feel called to work with a secondhand deck, you can just do a cleansing ritual with it and it would be absolutely fine. So ask your questions. I think it's really important to, you know, actively work with your deck. They can be a great way to gain insight, to gain clarity, and especially like a deck like my own, the way that it incorporates into our manifestation practice is obviously through affirmations in this sense, because you're working with a different manifestation affirmation each day or with each question. Then you've got a ritual, you've got a crystal, you've got journaling prompt and a channeled message. So oracle cards, especially this kind of deck, can really help us to manifest our desires by guiding us to maybe some blocks that we can't consciously see. Maybe it's going to guide us to a directional message that we need to see, that maybe we've been missing. Our spirit guides have maybe been trying to communicate with us and it just hasn't quite hit home, but we pull an oracle card and we think, oh my gosh, how accurate is that? I know I need to work on this. So I feel like they're a really great self-help tool for exploration, for insight, for clarity. But I think it's just really important to see it as fun. See it as a great addition to your already built trust and intuition within yourself. And again, question the cards within yourself. Don't just blindly believe everything and be like, yes, like that is the meaning for me. Like, ask yourself, how does this card resonate with me? How this card resonates with people watching this video may be hugely different, right? So it's really important that we honor how we feel with the message and ask ourselves, does this resonate and align with me? So there you have it. There is my breakdown of oracle cards and how to use them. I hope this has been really useful, and I'd love to know what oracle card decks that you have as well. Let me know what your favorite deck is. Let me know how you love to work with your oracle cards. I think it's always so great to see how everyone works with their decks differently, and it's great for all of us to see and be like, oh, I'll try that as well with my deck. So let me know, have oracle cards helped you? Do you love working with them? Maybe you're a complete newbie and you're excited to go and try them. I'll also put a clickable link in the description to my deck if you would like to explore that some more. And of course, I'll also put a link to my Amazon page where I put all of the oracle card decks that I love to work with as well, if you would like some more inspiration of where you can start with decks. But thank you so much, gorgeous souls, for watching. I appreciate all your views and likes. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, because I would love to see you again soon. Don't forget to leave me a comment in the comments box down below, because I reply to them all. And don't forget, you can also join my free Law of Attraction support group over on Facebook, where you can join myself and other like-minded souls, where we talk all things Law of Attraction and spirituality. I hope you have a great week, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you all in my next video, which will be next week. Lots of love.